I'm now going to show you how I rough turn a blank and use these products to get my blanks to dry a little bit quicker. Here's my next log. Here's my first bowl that I turned over the weekend. I had to have one finished before we got here because we don't have enough time to be turning a bunch of bowls. But this is what we're shooting for, okay? I'm gonna mount one on the lathe here. We're gonna make some chips fly, and then I'm gonna show you how I use either the end grain sealer or Pentacryl on my bowls, why I use it, and which situation it's best to use it in. So, the first thing that we do when we have a half log is we have to find our bowl inside of it, okay? To find center on a blank, we know we go corner to corner, we make an X in the middle, okay? I take a compass, I find my bowl in the middle, okay? Now, the first thing that you're gonna see is that my log is longer than the width of what my bowl is, okay? To make sure that I don't have any checking or anything happen to the ends of my bowl, I always cut my log 2 to 3 inches longer than the width, okay? That way, I have extra material on the end grain sides to get rid of. I know this is gonna be the side that I'm gonna have the most problems with. So by leaving it long, that gives me a little bit more wood to trim off later on. All right, now I'm gonna run over the bandsaw real quick. We're gonna just nip off these corners, then we'll put this log on the lathe and we'll make some chips fly. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna mount this blank on the lathe. To do that, I use this handy little product called a screw chuck, okay? It makes it really easy to mount it onto the lathe. But to do that, I have to drill a hole here in the center. To get our blank mounted on the lathe, I'm gonna use this handy little tool called a screw chuck, okay? To get this onto the wood, I'm gonna drill a hole right here in the center. You're gonna see that I have a 1/4-inch drill bit with a little piece of blue tape on it, okay? This blue tape is my indicator for how deep I need to drill into it. You'll also see that my blue tape goes about 1/8 of an inch deeper than the screw on my screw chuck, okay? I wanna make sure that when I put this screw chuck in the bowl, that the bowl sits flat here on this face and doesn't rock around on my screw, okay? Now, let's get this drilled out. I'll get this block on the lathe. So you guys ready to see some chips fly? Because I know I am. All right, now as we're getting started, we always have to talk about this, okay? Wood turning is inherently dangerous, okay? So you guys need to use your PPE, okay, and turn at a speed that's comfortable for you, okay? Now, what I mean by PPE is face shield, okay? It's the first thing that I put on whenever this lathe starts spinning, okay? You have to be very careful about things coming off, okay? The most important part is that we protect our head. So, face shield, okay? You will also see that I wear a jacket, mostly because I don't like to pull chips out of my shirt and things like that after. So, let's get this blank on here, get it roughed out, and then we can show you how we use Pentacryl and end grain sealer to save these blanks after we've got them rough turned. Now, we're in a woodcraft shop here in Denver. I thank them very much for letting us come in here. And I know that they end up having a mess going in here, but I'm gonna make a huge mess now, because that's what I love to do. All right. And then, take our live center. All right, now remember to turn at speeds that you're comfortable with, okay? I'm gonna be roughing this piece out at probably around 700 RPMs or so. I probably will get it up to about 1,000 RPMs as I'm shaping it, but work at speeds that are comfortable for you, okay? All right, let's get some of this wood out of the way and let's make a bowl. Look at this amazing grain color that we have. Aspen has really great browns and greens in it that most people don't really realize are in it. It has really great grain structure. I believe it's really an underappreciated wood. All right, we're almost round. So let's start shaping it, and then as we get our shape into it, we'll finish getting this to round. Oh, that is cutting like butter. Look at that. So the next thing we're gonna do here, we're gonna cut our tenon so that we can put it in the 4-jaw chuck, flip this over, and make it into a bowl. All right, now that we've got our tenon, let's finish shaping this, get it flipped over. All right, that's beautiful. All right, there's a rough bowl shape. All right, so let's face this off, get this scooped out, and then we'll show you how I use the products on these. All right, now as we're cutting this, the other thing that you have to think about is this is going to be a twice-turned bowl, okay? I can't take my wall thickness down to my final thickness right now because I need to have enough meat here so that it can dry. So this is about an 8-inch diameter bowl. I'm going to leave the wall thickness here roughly about 3/4 of an inch. Rule of thumb is for a 12-inch bowl blank, you leave the wall thickness at an inch. Kind of play with it from there. If this is an 8-incher, I should be able to get away with a 3/4 of an inch wall thickness and still have enough material left there that after it dries, I can return it and have a nice solid bowl that's going to be about 3/8 of an inch thick. It's got these really cool streaks going on in it. Now, I don't just guess and make sure that my bowl is at 3/4 of an inch. We use a set of inside-outside calipers, okay? I'm gonna use this so that I can make sure that my wall thickness is consistent all the way down, okay? Now, if you want your bowls to dry properly, using these products, you have to make sure that you don't have wood that's fighting against each other. And what I mean by that is if you have a really thin rim here and a really thick bottom, that means that the bottom is gonna have more moisture in it. It's gonna take longer to dry, and there's gonna be more of a risk of cracking because of that thickness and having the moisture down in there. By having more of a consistent wall thickness, it's gonna make this a more stable product, and it's gonna help when I put the end grain sealer and Pentacryl on it to dry properly. All right, that's pretty good. I'm gonna take one more cleanup cut and we're gonna be good. All right, so let's get this off the chuck and show you how we're gonna use these products on these. Not only are they from the same tree, they are from the same exact piece of log. So earlier when you saw me open up the bag, here's my pith center. Okay, this side came off of right here. This side came off of right here. So this is exactly what we have going on right now. So that's how we got two bowls out of the same log. Now, it's crazy to look at color in one side, creamy white in the other side. Now that I can't explain to you. That's just how trees grow. But relatively the same size, relatively the same shape, which is what we're looking for here. So here's the center, here's my bowls. Okay. Now really why I'm gonna show you this again is so that you can see the growth rings, okay? And that's really what this demo was about, was being able to show you the growth rings and where the product should be placed to make it work the best, okay? Now, the first thing I'm gonna use is some of this end grain sealer because we have it out here, okay? Now, just like when I showed you guys the log, or I'm sorry, the half log that we had cut, that I want to cover the end grain and just a little bit of the long grain, okay? Here, in case we can't tell, from here down to here is end grain, okay? It's the same thing on the inside of the bowl. I know everybody's like, oh my God, you're drawing on your bowl. These are gonna be returned, you're never gonna see this. Here on the inside, you can see that between these two black lines, that's where the end grain is, okay? So that's mainly where I'm going to put the end grain sealer, okay? I wanna make sure that the moisture is going to escape out of the long grain here and not out of the end grain. I would say 80% of the wood turners that I know, this is how they rough turn their bowls, okay? They rough turn it to the shape that they want. They're gonna end grain seal both the inside and outside. And then I'm gonna show you how we're gonna use the shavings that I just made to pack around the bowl so that it slow dries. Now, depending on what part of the country you're in, that can be different. But here in Colorado, one of our biggest challenges is slowing down drying, okay? We are a very arid climate. We have a lot of wind and things like that. So we're trying to slow down our drying so that our blanks don't just fall apart on us. All right, so let's do the outside first. We're just coating that end grain, okay? And now we're gonna do the same thing on the inside. So you'll notice I'm not putting any down in the bottom. I'm not putting any on the rim, and I'm not putting any on the long grain on the sides. That's where I want that moisture to escape from. All right, now that we have that done, we're gonna take our bag here, we're gonna come over, we're gonna use these shavings that we just made. Okay, we're gonna set the bowl right inside there. We'll take a little bit more and we'll put it on top, okay? Now, I don't want to take this bag and tie a knot in it, okay? If I do that, then all that moisture is just gonna stay inside there, okay? We want that moisture to escape. We just don't want it to escape very quickly. So I am gonna leave it just slightly opened so that as it dries, that moisture can leave, okay? One of the other things we want to watch out for is that we don't have mold start growing on our pieces. Wood inherently will grow mold if it sits too moist for long. We know that because that's what causes spalting. Everybody loves spalting. It's kind of hard to control though. So now that we have this like this, I'm gonna set this off to the side. In my shop, this bowl would sit like this for probably 2 or 3 weeks. After that, I'll check it. The shavings should be dry at that point. I'll then take the shavings out and let the bowl itself finish drying for anywhere between 1 to 2 months. It's gonna depend on how big the bowl is. Let's take this, put it over here. And then the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna show you how we're gonna use the Pentacryl on this one. Pentacryl, okay, is a different product than end grain sealer, okay? And really, the purpose of this video was to show you guys what difference you're gonna get out of your bowls depending on which product you use, okay? Now, the end grain sealer is still going to give you some warping. There's gonna be some ovalizing of your bowl, okay? That's just natural in the drying process. But when we use Pentacryl, because of the way that it actually goes into the wood grains, you're gonna have a lot less warping of your bowls. So generally, when I'm using Pentacryl, I will take my wall thickness down just a little bit more. But for the purpose of this demo, we're gonna just leave it like this. You can brush the product on if you'd like. It is gonna take a little while, okay? Because this is a penetrating solution, it needs to get all the way down into the grain, okay? I try to be as efficient as I can. That was a better term than saying that I'm lazy. For me, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a Homer bucket right here, and I'm gonna pour the product in so that the bowl can sit in the Pentacryl and be able to be completely absorbed into the grain, okay? Now, the other reason that I like to use a bucket or a tub or something like that is that once the product is in here, I can just keep reusing it, okay? When I started doing this, I was using plastic bags, and they worked fine, but every once in a while, a plastic bag would get a hole in it. It's kind of a bummer when you expect to have your product there and it's now on your shop floor. So I'm a big fan of the Homer bucket. Like I said, until this is completely evaporated and gone, I could keep putting more bowls and hollow vessels into here. And I can even add more into it as I have to put a bigger bowl or a bigger vessel into here, okay? So, take this, we're gonna just set it right here on the inside. Now, we're gonna take our Pentacryl, okay, I've just got my bowl set right in here, and I'm going to actually fill up the bowl of it, okay? I don't know if you can see it. I'm gonna put it down here so that you can kind of see. So you can see that the bowl is filled, because what I want to happen is all the Pentacryl that's inside the bowl, I want it to seep in as much as it can before I saturate the bottom of it. We'll do that again. We'll fill it back up. All right. So now I will put it in a bag, leaving it open so that some of the moisture can escape. It will have the same drying time. It'll probably be another month to 3 months before I get back to it. And I will turn it exactly the same as I do one with end grain sealer on it. The only difference that you're going to find is that the bowl is going to be much more stable. And what I mean by that is it's not going to have ovalized on you as much as something that has just air dried with an end grain sealer on. So for pieces that I have to be very precise on, things that I cannot have enough, or that I need to have enough wood to return it, Pentacryl is my go-to every time. If it's a thicker blank that I know is gonna ovalize and I am okay with that, then I go with the end grain sealer, okay? These are both wonderful products. You just need to know which time and which place to use it and the results that you're gonna get.